Good afternoon. My name is Frank Martin. I am part of the Veterans History Project, and we are doing it here from the studios of Metro East Community Media in Gresham, Oregon. Today is the 20th of February of 2016, and with me is Donna Neibauer, I apologize, of Gresham, Oregon. And we are speaking here today as not as a veteran, but of a very interesting thing as one of the women workers of World War II. Is that not correct, Donna? Mm-hmm. And so I'll ask you a question. How did you get to be a shipyard worker during World War II?
Well, my husband went in the service, and I moved in with my parents. My dad was working at the Oregon shipyard.
Uh-huh.
And so I thought I might as well go work someplace where I can make some money.
Take advantage of the situation.
Yeah.
And what kind of, you decided to go make some money. Was there any training or was there any barriers of you getting the employment?
No. Well, I did train. They taught me how to weld. But otherwise, it was just simple.
So you were in demand. I imagine, you worked a standard 8 to 10 hour shift, maybe?
I think it was an 8-hour shift. I don't remember.
Well, I can understand that. And you started at the Willamette shipyard?
At the, yes.
And
as a shipfitter's helper.
As shipfitter's helper.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd imagine that was building cargo ships and the like?
That was building a flat aircraft.
Aircraft?
Carriers.
Carriers. Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Then, according to your little bio here, you went on to albino. So you went from one shipyard to another. Was that part of a job move, or was that just being assigned one place to the other?
Well, I had an accident there, and I decided and I seen an accident of a man falling off a ship because the welding that this other person had put on the steps, tacked the steps on, and this guy fell on his head and killed him. Oh. And I seen him fall, and I thought, that's a good idea. I think I'll become a welder, and boy, I'm going to weld it in.
And so during that time when you were a welder, you were working on aircraft carriers and other vessels, but you probably had quite a few coworkers during that time.
Oh yeah, of course I was on my own. They just need a welder, somebody just call me.
Right.
Or my foreman would, put me on jobs.
Uh-huh.
And he put me in places other people couldn't get in because I was kind of thin then.
Oh, well, I can picture that. You mentioned to me in the pre-interview that you used to get the attention of some of the Navy people.
Yeah. Yeah. What about it?
Well, was there any specific thing besides the one story you told me, or was this just you had to deal with the Navy people?
They're sailors, and they was always trying to get us girls to date them,
Even though you were working on the ships and
wearing
the
and I say,
coveralls
I'm getting paid to work, not talk to you guys, But it was kind of comical. And then we had a big Russian ship come in down there at Albina.
And you had to work on a Russian
No,
vessel?
we were not allowed to even go near those Russian ships.
Well, I can't imagine why.
Well, I didn't know why for a while. Then I was told.
I guess that would be a different perspective back then when during the war, Russia was always considered an ally. But after the war, we kind of treated them a little bit differently, didn't we?
Yeah.
So as you did this work and you worked on these ships, I know Portland was a big hub. Kaiser had its shipyards over there towards the Vanport area.
Mm-hmm.
Then you worked for your company. Did you guys have much dealing between the companies, or was it a competition kind of?
No, it wasn't even competition. I don't know how they would order these ships would come in, and they do right. I don't know what they did. They were just there.
They're just part of the work, and you were part of it.
Yeah, that's the main thing.
And now, during this time, did you have any children? Were you married at the time? Or
Oh, yes, I was married and had my son, Jerry. And he was 3 months when I went to work. And then when I retired, when the work was over with, you can't believe what everybody did in that shipyard. Everybody just dropped everything and just started yelling, or, the war is over with. Yes,
yeah.
yes.
Don't have to do this no more for this purpose anyway.
And I said, well, I guess I'll go home now.
So you didn't have any feelings about staying with the work? You were done?
No, I was done. I did what I wanted to do and to help, really.
And I don't blame you for that. So after the war, you continued on? You went to work for anybody else? Or
Oh, I went to work for the school board then.
Made a fine contribution there. And, of course, you were raising your son, Jerry, during the whole time.
Yes.
Really, I don't know much more to ask you about this question, but thinking back on your experiences working as part of the war effort, were you proud to be part of that?
Oh, yes, I was. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. A lot of the people said, well, they just came to me for the money. Well, really, I didn't. I just wanted to go help, do something.
Right.
You
know, that's one thing a lot of people don't realize. I mean, we all think back to World War II, and everybody goes, oh, the war. But, there was people in the background doing their jobs that ended up supporting that.
And boy, when I welded, I made sure nobody would get hurt.
Well, that's the main thing. Too bad we don't have that kind of pride today in some of the manufacturing.
Oh, yes.
And
of course, when I welded, and anybody made a mistake in having that put in, why they'd have to have a chipper take it out, and they always knew when I welded. They said they had a hard time chipping it out.
So now, when you were, I have a very limited experience of welding. My dad used to work as a machinist on the railroad, and he made sure I learned how to be a welder.
Okay, then you know what I'm talking about.
So I know what you're talking about. Now, when you were doing the work on the ships, did you have to mark where you were doing your welds, so when they inspected it, it was inspected? Or
it never was inspected that I know of.
Now that's interesting to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how they did the assembly practices back then.
I don't think they really inspected anything that I know of. They never inspected. I did what I did, and I doubt if they did anybody else's.
Huh.
Because they knew supposed to know how to weld and how to do it right.
That's interesting.
So
you're absolutely correct. As you did this work, you worked with many co-workers, and you just told me at the end of the war everybody was happy, and then they just dropped it. So did the company stay alive after that, or did they just sort of fade away?
I think they just kind of faded away, to tell you the truth, because there was no more ships to be built.
Kind of sad when you think about it,
it is.
All
really
the
is.
soldiers and sailors returning, they could have took those jobs over and just kept the business thriving. And you mentioned your son Jerry, who went on to serve, and we're going to be interviewing him later, I understand. Did you have any gumption later on in life as Jerry decided to be in the military, that you didn't want him to be in the military because of the war? Or?
Well, he didn't give me a choice. He graduated at 17 from Benson High School, and because he was very mechanical, Jerry was. So I thought, I'm going to have him go there to relearn, and of course he was smart too. But anyway, I forgot what you was asking me.
Well, what I was asking is, you served as a wartime worker, and you saw the ships go out, and you knew some of those ships, they were probably going to be sunk or damaged. So then your son later on in life, as you go on, were you worried about him being in the military since the war, from the wartime experience of World War II? Yeah,
he was in Vietnam War. Jerry was, and he was in the Air Force too. But he graduated from Benson at 17, and Air Force man came out, and I said, no. I said plenty to him. But I thought, as long as he wants to go in, there's no sense in stopping him because he's going to be 18 in November, or he can go in anyway.
Right.
So I thought, don't stop him. So I signed and he went in.
Well, on a personal note, I'll have to say I did the same thing to my parents. So I understand where you're coming from. A little bit different situation, but hey, it's just kind of interesting to me that we're interviewing somebody who was not part of the war effort, but they were. They built the ships. They kept them going, and kept the Allies supplied with shipping. And Donna, I thank you very much for being here today and talking to us and being part of this project.
I appreciate that.
Is there anything else you would like to say, or any doubts you have?
I just don't want no more wars.
Amen to that. So, well, you don't want any more wars, and I don't blame you. But, let's go back. Let's think about it a little bit here. You got a situation now in today's wars. The efforts of what you guys did, what your generation did as part of the shipyard workers, you decided you wanted to contribute. You became a welder and was working on these ships. And today, that doesn't happen.
No.
And do you think that the society kind of changed a little bit on that point? Do you think that people should volunteer more to support the people who do the fighting in our little conflicts that come up from time to time?
Well, really, I can't answer that because I'm not a man.
Well,
because I don't go to fight.
No, but
I would
nowadays the women do.
I know.
I'm just talking about, do you think people should be more patriotic?
Yes.
Towards the...
yes, I do. Definitely.
Right or wrong or indifferent, we're all part of the effort.
That's right.
My experience, in this war on terrorism or what we have today, people say, well, we don't need to be over there, and they have every right to say that.
I know.
But,
we don't know the circumstances about anything.
You're absolutely correct. It just amazes me, the more I'm talking to you, and this is very true. I'm talking to somebody who actually worked on ships, and I could never thought of my mother doing that. Mm-hmm. My mother, she was a school teacher for a period of time, and after that, she was just a housewife. Mm-hmm. And she used to talk like you. I'm just the wife. I'm just this. Mm-hmm. But she had her opinions. I knew that for a fact. Mm-hmm. So, again, I thank you for speaking. And for the Veterans History Project, this is Frank Martin. Thank you and good day. We might have to do this whole interview over again.
Why?
Cut it.
We need 15 more minutes, and you need to ask her about some of her welding experiences, tragedies, that type of thing. We need 15 more minutes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
See how this works? I didn't know what to ask you.
No.
So we'll go back to that. This is where that editing is going to come in, Susan. All right. So you saw that person. You told me about a tragedy of welding somebody. And he fell off a ladder and basically killed himself.
He fell off the steps that were tacked on, not welded on. The steps that goes up.
They were just tacked welded on there, and it wasn't proper, and he hit it, and he went over the side. Did you see any other little incidences like that? Maybe people dropping steel on each other?
Well, I fell because of somebody tacking something on. That's how I had my accident. And I was supposed to go down these steps, and I was working for the ship fitter. I was his helper, and he called me to help him. And I started down the steps. Well, there's a flange about this high, this along the step, in front of the steps. That's to be up there. And then there's supposed to be a chain across there, the top here. They keep you from using those steps. Well, whoever finished their job here, they took the chain down, but they didn't take the flange off. And I came around the corner, grabbed the handrail, and tripped.
And now, did you end up going to the hospital for that?
Oh, yeah, I was in for a month.
And of course, that took a little bit of wages out of your pay, too.
Oh, yeah. And I didn't sue either.
Well, I would have, but you know, that's...
Well, I should have, but...
But back then, they probably didn't have that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And, of course, you personally were hurt, but like, you know, I imagine, you know, there was other little things, you know, when you're working with metal, there's always somebody doing, you know, like you said, you just mentioned, somebody didn't do their job, they only tacked one with their steps on there. And, you know, there are times where people get in a hurry.
Well, you're not supposed to be in a hurry when you're doing something like that.
Well, that's very true, but
That's
you know how,
you know,
what could be and should be are two different matters, I guess.
I always made sure everything was solid when I got done or anything, but, oh, I remember, let's see, tragedies. No, there wasn't that much in the shipyards that I know of.
Okay, so when you were working on the ships, and this just came to my mind, they would start up from the keel up. Were you involved in the inner hull, or were you involved on the decks?
I have been down in the double...
down on the keel.
I've been on a float on the water, and every time the water came up, I welded something. I forgot what it was. Then let it go down, and I have to wait. Then go up, and then I weld. And nobody would do that because they were scared.
Even along the river?
On the river, oh, yeah.
That's interesting.
Isn't that dumb? I mean...
Well, no, it's not dumb. I mean, when you really look at Portland, and you're along the river, you're only 24 feet above sea level, and they tell me that even the water levels of the rivers are affected by the tides coming in off the cliff.
That's what I was doing. I was around 22, 23 then too, of course, and everything. But
well, that's like all of us when we're that age.
Yeah,
we don't understand the deaths or the
that's right.
the consequences of our little work.
and then I would go to the double bottoms. I'd have to weld in those places, and some of the places I had to do overhead, like in there's one tanker that came in. Oil tanker came in, and that's a mighty big room down there, and I had to go up and weld overhead. That's
weld on the tank up towards the deck.
Yes, and you look down there, you're ways up.
So you're working on scaffolding, I take it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting.
I did that too.
And I can't, in fact, me personally, I can't imagine being in a hold like that without some light and little safety line. And no, they didn't give you that.
And what else?
So you worked on tankers and you worked on freighters
and landing craft.
Landing craft.
LST. What's that? I forgot.
That's a landing ship tank.
Okay, and there's something.
Then there's landing ship mediums, which were carrying the troops, and LSTs, which carried more troops.
Yeah.
Well, I'm kind of familiar with the types. I'm kind of a history buff. I don't know why.
Yeah, you know, a person should write all that down, but you know.
You know, you're right, and a lot of people don't, and that's why we're doing this kind of project, getting the insights.
Yeah.
Um.
I'm trying to. And you know, you figure those kids are in that service. This one boy, he was a nice kid, and he talked about his baby he had never seen yet. And he was a nice. He used to come. I talked to him then, and you know, take a break and talk. But they miss their families. Bad.
So now this was a serviceman who had to wait for you to get the ship work done.
Yeah.
So they were kind of like in port, kind of.
They were just hanging around, you know.
Oh, that would, to me, that would be the ultimate boredom, waiting for somebody to do the work.
Yeah. Well, they didn't. They just hung around. They had nothing to do with us at all. They were just living on board that ship, you know, because the ship was.
That was their ship.
Yeah, that was their ship, and it was something, you know, having those boys there and not. And so I showed him a picture of Jerry, and oh man, he said, I'd sure like to see that baby. She says, it's about the same age as mine. And so I said, well, okay. I said, you want to come out to my place sometime? He said, yeah, so I took him home.
Oh.
And he met my family and everything, and he seen Jerry, and he said, this makes me, it really made him feel good, you know.
A little bit of providing a little morale. And
yeah. So then when Easter came, he invited me for Easter dinner on board ship. And
Nothing wrong with that.
And he says, bring Jerry. So I did.
So, as you did this and you got all these experiences, and you know, like I said, we don't get to talk to the workers who work in the home front as often as we should.
Mm-hmm.
You know, everybody concentrates on history of what happened in the war and all that. There was a thought coming to my mind, and I'm not trying to be a blank, but I don't want to insult you by asking the question.
Well, that's all right. I'll just say no. I don't want to.
There you go. You know, you took this sailor home, and you were already married.
Mm-hmm. But he left, and that was the last of it.
That was the last of
yeah.
it. But was Portland like a liberty town besides the sailors? Was also Army?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
I mean, you saw the military around the town and all that. Were they treated well, or was there an attitude in Portland that...
Not then there wasn't. No, not then that I know of. There wasn't. But it's, no, there was all kind of servicemen here in Portland at that time. And I guess there was, but of course I didn't go out or anything.
Well, the reason I'm asking is, you know, Portland, you can look at it today. You have the downtown train station, Union Station. Mm-hmm. And this was like a central hub along the north coast going down towards Los Angeles, where you had, you know, going up to Seattle. And then, you know, they'd come in from the Midwest, they'd ship them to Portland and go either direction. And, you know, it always fascinates me in how I hear stories about how people got to the war. And, you know, so I guess Portland would be one of those places where, you know, people would get off the train, go get something neat, and then get back on the train, and they'd be gone. You wouldn't know why they were there. But
yeah,
anyway.
it was pretty active around Portland, I guess. But anyway, everybody felt sorry for it. I mean, everybody was sorry for the boys that was over there. I know that.
Was there a lot of wartime rationing in Portland?
Oh yes, no nylons. You had to have pass for that tickets to buy your shoes.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to hear the stories about how you used to have coupons when you went to the grocery store. But
Oh
I never
yes.
heard of the shoe.
We couldn't get
situation.
sugar and different things. Yeah. But of course, I wasn't in on that either because I was living with my parents and I didn't do any cooking or nothing.
Oh, so you let the parents worry about those little issues.
I was paying my room. I was paying my room and board. Oh yeah. So that made oh, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you know, I can see where your position is. You're looking back on it and you go, well, I just went through it.
Yeah.
And you're not trying to take the credit for it. And, you know,
give it to the boys.
yeah, but you were part of helping get the equipment to the boys.
Oh yeah. Yeah. But you know, who thinks of that?
Well, see, that's why we're here talking to you today.
Yeah, so anyway, the only thing is that we had to wear those dirty wool leathers all the time and the hood. And I sometimes, one of the sailors, if I'd laid my hood down for a reason, they'd come and grab it. So it'd keep me from welding, see?
Ah, some more of the little flirting going on.
Yeah,
there.
yeah. So then I said, well, I don't need it anyway. Then they gave up.
Teach them for sucking eggs on that issue.
Yeah. I never got a flash or nothing, but I could weld without the hood. And I never got a headache or nothing.
I'll be honest with you, I've never heard of welding with a hood. Now, with a hat, yes, I've heard of that, but with the hoods, I've never heard.
Oh, yeah, those hoods that came down.
Oh, you mean the welding mask?
The welding hood, yeah.
Okay, hood. Now I'm getting what you're saying. But if you were welding without the hood, you didn't have the eye protection.
No.
You're a braver person than I can imagine.
I was just foolish.
So as you did this, I'm just trying to picture it all. You did this for 3 years.
Yep.
And then you dropped it all.
Yeah, the war was over with.
That, to me, that's interesting how a person can just take up a trade. And like you said, you've alluded to it before. I'm just a female. And I know that was the attitude back then, but you honestly just picked up welding, took up welding, welded on ships, something that generally most females today wouldn't even try to do.
Yeah, that's true, I guess.
I know, I can remember when I took my high school welding class, there wasn't a single female in the room.
I'll be darned.
But then after you do this, you drop it, and it's just...
Yeah, but I miss it. I'd love to weld again.
See, now there's what I was trying to get allude to. Did you enjoy it?
I enjoyed every bit of it. I'd weld all day and weld all night. I was even welding in my sleep.
and like I said, you stopped doing the work, and then you went on to do whatever you did.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I did.
God, I'm trying to put this into words. I'm actually very happy to talk to you.
Well, thank you very much.
And again, I'm going to try to close this out for the Veterans History Project. I'm here with Donna Neibauer. Neibauer, and I apologize. Speaking to you from the studios of Metro East Community Media in Gresham, Oregon, on the 20th of February 2016. And I give you one of the, well, shall we say, the Rosie the Riveter.
No, Donna the Welder.
Donna the Welder. And I'm getting the deal that we need 5 more minutes.
Well, see.
I don't know what to say to this woman.
Well, I'm 93, so it didn't hurt me any to weld, to do that hard work. That was heavy work. Carrying those heavy leads over your shoulder. That was hard for me, going up and down those steps on the side of the...
So, okay, now you you got me going again, and here I am thinking about more questions to ask you. So when you got these metal pieces, you didn't carry all the metal with you, did you? I imagine you had crane operators dropping.
We had a machine up in the shop because I was arc welding.
Okay.
And I'd sometimes have to go up and turn my machine up or down, to all depend what I was working on, But it was hard working with those heavy leads and carrying them around every place you went, because you had to keep that with you. But that's all we carried, is just because the ship fitter is the one that took care of it and laid it out for you, and then you just weld it.
Ah, so you weren't laying it up like some of the welders do. You just came along and welded the pieces, then went on to do the next piece that they were indicated.
And then when I was through, I'd go, well, my foreman would come and say, I got another job for you, so they would go do another job.
That's fascinating. I guess maybe I was thinking back then, they had more of an assembly line basis where you stayed in one area and you did
it was all over that ship.
Give you the work order and away you went.
Take me there and say, okay.
And now, when you worked on your welding crew, you worked as an individual, or did you work on a crew of welders?
No, I was an individual. I just worked wherever a job was on board ship. Like the gun mounts out on the deck, for instance. I had to do them. I did one of them one time. So
tacking it to the hole, I take it? Or?
Yeah, but just a big thing like this, laid out where the gun would. They put the gun
down in the middle, yeah.
And then so I'd weld around here, see, along the edge, weld it down, and that was kind of fascinating. I got a guy that I'm doing it for, and I don't know, I just didn't like him too well for some reason, and so I told him, I said, would you hold this down for me? He didn't realize what I was doing. And he says, okay, and he held it down. There's nothing to hold, really, but he thought he had to hold. And he
held it up like this,
and
he had his hands on that thing?
I took my rod like this and hit it against hit that thing, and that guy, and and he did it 2 or 3 times before he caught on to it. He says, I've had it. He took off.
So when you got done with this piece of work on this gun mount, you did the welding. Now, somebody else came along and did the finishing work, or
no? I just did the welding and chipped off the stuff that goes
the carbon.
And then that was it.
Yeah, but somebody's got to do the finishing work afterwards, sometime.
What finishing work? This is on board a deck. On deck.
When you do the work, you did the welding. I understand that.
Yeah.
But now, when the ship goes out to sea, it's got to be protected with paint.
I don't know, because then after I was through, they would bring the gun down and place it there, you know.
Right.
They never painted anything like that, I don't think. I don't know what they did with it, because I never went back.
You weren't worried about it. Your job was to weld it to the deck, that was it.
Yeah. That's my job.
That's your story, and that's what you're going to stick to it.
Yeah, I am.
Like I said, it's fascinating to me to talk to you, but I don't know what more to ask you.
And we weld it rain or shine.
And I would imagine that would be a factor here in the Portland areas. Because if you were welding on the river, you weren't under a protecting awning of any type. Now, wouldn't that give you issues?
Well, we weren't always out in the open. We was inside of, like,
right, but if you were on deck.
Yeah.
Now, if you were welding on deck with an arc welder.
Well, I don't know if they ever did any welding out on that deck. I only did that once.
Oh.
And because they had me on the more finer stuff, you know.
Oh, okay. So you weren't doing the...
Yeah.
Yeah. I would imagine, like I said, if you're welding on deck with an arc welder in the rain, that would be an interesting experience to me. Okay. Well, now, because I've done this 3 times, we were talking to Donna Neibauer of Portland, Oregon, Gresham, Oregon. She worked as Donna the welder during World War II. And it's a privilege to talk to her as part of the Veterans History Project on the 20th of February of 2016. And Donna, I wish you all the best. It's very nice to talk to you.
Thank you.
And to you, good night.